I ask you this. If it's a Game 7, your season's on the line, do you trust him? Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Well,
the
so
answer's
here's the
no.
thing. Can we talk about how wrong Chris Vernon is about the Rockets and James Harden?
What?
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
How wrong I am about what? You see that fat ass the other night?
Okay, let me ask you a question, Verno.
What a winner.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
It's an honest question.
Yeah.
James Harden's tenure with the Rockets.
Yep.
2012 to right now. Mm-hmm. Tell me the player and team that had a more successful run other than Stephen Curry with the Rockets and then Kevin Durant joining up with him. Tell me.
That would be the team that had a more successful run.
Okay, but that's it. So if James Harden and the Rockets were total failures, then think about the 28 teams beneath them on that list.
Well, I didn't say that. I never said he was a total failure. Hold on now.
Come on.
I didn't say this guy was a total failure. I said he vomited on himself when it mattered most, which he did 1,000 times.
Okay.
And by the way, Nick, on his home court, without Kawhi, got beat 110-78, then went out to a strip club so they could all chant MVP for him. That's your winner? That's your leader? That's your franchise guy? That's
okay,
ridiculous.
so here's my problem with the critiques of the strip clubs and the nightlife and the culture and Tim McMahon's article that like anybody that follows the NBA, none of that was news, right? The anecdote in there, that one of them that people are jumping to is, and in the bubble, there was a film session and Russell Westbrook was so angry. It's like, start the film. Like, we're not waiting for him. Like Russell Westbrook, the antithesis of Harden as far as professionalism and attention to detail. How's that worked out for us? Like, oh, they have the same postseason resume. In fact, Harden's a little bit better. So this idea that like Harden has a better postseason resume than Giannis. Nobody thinks Giannis is like partying too much. The thing is this, there's like 3 guys, I guess, if we want to include Kawhi, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Kawhi, like, remember how he was like the consummate pro in Toronto? And then it's like, hey, he's making everybody wait for him for planes with the loss of the Clippers, and he was a big part of the culture problem. It's like 3 guys in the whole league who we can be like, oh, okay, they check every single box. And it just frustrates me with a guy like Harden, who is, I don't know, the 26th greatest player in the history of basketball, who were like, you know what? He's the problem. He's not really the problem. He's not better than Steph or Durant or LeBron. And that's who you have to be better than to win titles.
But this is what happens with franchise guys. This is what happens with quarterbacks. This is what happens in sports. That's what we do. I ask you this. If it's a Game 7, your season's on the line, do you trust him? Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Well,
the answer's no.
Thing. Okay, all right, but then let me ask a different question.
That's why you get paid $40 million. Okay. That's why you get the accolades, the MVPs, the everything.
That's great. So I have a question, though. More than 4 guys you do trust.
Oh, they're going to be there for the fight when the game's on the line? Like, I'm saying going down swinging. I think Jimmy Butler will go down swinging.
See, that's where, like, Harden in every way, shape, and form is a player you would rather have than Jimmy Butler in every way.
Except when my season's on the line and Harden would rather go sit in the stands.
Okay.
See, this is where I have issues with your argument, Chris, because those 2 series where you say he vomited over himself against the Warriors, to me, he's the reason why they're even in that position in the first place. And
do you think Russell Westbrook is a reason they were in it against them? That led to the whole when they lost, when Westbrook and Durant lost. You don't give Westbrook credit for that. You don't don't look at that the same way.
Russ deserves some credit. Of course he does. Of course he does.
But you don't look
Kevin
at that
Durant
the same
is the
way.
number 1 guy on those teams.
But I guess I guess my thing is that there has to be a value to over, since Harden got to the Rockets. They're the only franchise who went to the playoffs every year, and they won more games than everybody. And it's not like there were a bunch of these random teams that won titles. Who won titles? The greatest player ever and the greatest collection of talent ever, you could argue, or certainly the team with the greatest shooter ever, and a random Toronto team the year the greatest collection of talent ever all got hurt.
Okay, I agree. So you would say that Peyton Manning is the criticisms of Peyton Manning are ridiculous, right?
I would say it's clear that he was not his best in the biggest moments, obviously, but that does not change the fact that we didn't spend 60% of the time discussing Peyton Manning, talking about his flaws.
Of course we did. To this day.
One of the five greatest quarterbacks of all time.
I'm with Nick here. Because I'm with Nick. That's not true. I'm with Nick because I grew up rooting for those Patriots teams that crushed Peyton Manning. And all I heard was Peyton Manning is better than Tom Brady. The Patriots defense is only reason why Peyton Manning is losing in the postseason. That's what I heard throughout the early mid-2000s.
You're the Bills fan seeking out Nick Wright saying something bad about Josh Allen.
I listen to Boston sports radio almost every single day of my life growing up.
Nobody in Boston was saying Peyton Manning was better than Tom Brady.
James Harden is traded today. If James Harden's traded today,
he might.
What was a more successful run? Harden in Houston or Damian Lillard in Portland as of right now?
I would say that Dame was, because of the lack of superstar, I would say I am more impressed about him carrying his franchise.
Come on, man. They're strapped and clawing for the playoffs.
Who's
the bubble run?
Hold on now. That's because Nurkic got hurt, and you know that as well as I do. Who is the best player Damian Lillard's ever played with?
CJ McCollum.
Obviously, Syracuse champion Carmelo Anthony, but I think some people would say CJ McCollum.
Okay. How many All-Star teams has CJ McCollum played in?
LaMarcus Aldridge. Early in his career.
Aldridge.
But how many All? But CJ McCollum's never even made an All-Star game. All right.
That's fine. So, but again, does Dame has those two iconic shots and also some tough postseason moments. But there are certain guys that I would put in like the Klay Thompson bucket, which is, I would argue, the best prior to the injuries, obviously, the best life to live of NBA player, which is a very, very good to great player that is not great enough for us to crush when they don't do it. And up until recently, that's the bucket Dame was in. When the Blazers played well, everyone loved Dame. And when they're 20 games, out of first, even though Dame and CJ were healthy all year, we're like, sucks for Dame, man, but we can't blame him. Like, what we can't do is say it's like Dame should have been better. Because before they got superstars in Houston, James Harden was carrying that team to the postseason before they got other guys around them. And it's not like the Dwight Howard years. Dwight Howard was a dominant force. And if we're being totally candid, it's not like the second year or the second year with Chris Paul.
Dwight Howard year, he had to be benched in a Game 7 so that they could come back and win.
That was a Game 6. Yeah. That was a Game 6.
Game 6.
And I don't know that he was benched. He started the fourth quarter on the bench and then they let the rally go on. I'm not saying he's unimpeachable. I'm just saying that I think there's a little too much flame thrown his way.